All right, so I'm here today with Professor Andy Weinberg. Andy is a professor at Castleton University in the sports management department. I've known Andy for a couple years now, my first year of college. As a freshman, I studied sports management at Castleton and got to work pretty closely with Andy. Volunteered together at Vermont Adaptive Ski and Sport for a while. Got to know him a good bit there. Skied together a bit. And Andy, both professionally and just as a person, with his athletic exploits, professional exploits, and willingness to give back to his community has been deeply inspiring to me. So very happy to talk with you here today, Andy, and thanks for being here.
Thanks for having me, Garrett. Long time no see. I'm really thrilled to hear that you're in this program and you're doing well.
Great. All right, thank you. I'll dive into our first question here. So, if you could just give us as much background as you can about your professional and your career path that sort of led you to what you do now in sports management.
Okay, sure, I'd be glad to. Feel free to stop me if I'm chatting too much, but I'll go ahead and give you my path. I'll make the early part pretty quick, like where I grew up, and then I'll go into my professional, since I graduated from college. But basically, I'm from Peoria, Illinois, which is south of Chicago, north of St. Louis. I grew up in a blue collar town, home of Caterpillar tractors, the big yellow machines. And so it was a pretty large area, actually, a couple 100,000 people, but they employ a lot of people who make diesel engines and Caterpillar tractors, et cetera. I went away to college, got my degree in kinesiology, which is the study of movement, and basically wanted to be a PE teacher and a health teacher. So I became a teacher, went back to my old high school in Peoria, Illinois, and I was a teacher there for 15 years. And I coached high school sports. I really liked high school age kids, and I loved motivating them to get excited about sport. I also started a small company, and I started putting on races, endurance races, and that was in my 20s. And I was just really into triathlon and competing, not only competing, but also putting on events. So raised a family. My wife and I have two daughters. I have one daughter who's a kindergarten teacher now, and the other daughter's in her final year of dental school at Tufts University down in Boston. My wife's also a teacher. As Garrett said, I am a professor now at Castleton University. So what happened was my family and I decided to make a move from Illinois to Vermont. Basically, the town we were living in was just a lot of crime and a lot of drugs, and we decided we didn't want to raise our kids in that environment. So we moved to Vermont, and I got a job coaching at Middlebury College, which I loved. And then all of a sudden, I realized I really liked the college age kids instead of high school age kids. So I taught at I coached at Middlebury for a couple years, but I was gone all of the time on weekends and such. And I really missed teaching. So I started looking for teaching jobs, and I got hired at Castleton University, which is now Vermont State University. And I do teach one sport management class, but my main focus, our department is called Health and Exercise Science. So I teach in the health and exercise science portion of it. So physical education, health education teachers. I teach a couple athletic training courses, and as Garrett said, I met him in a sport management course. I also started a small company called Peak, which developed into a big company called Spartan Race. And eventually it became corporate and it moved to Boston, but it started in small town Vermont. And I kept that going. I have a small company called the Endurance Society, and the Endurance Society is a company which puts on six endurance events. We also give back to the community. And so I'm excited about that. I've been teaching at Castleton for 16 years. I'm currently on sabbatical leave, which is awesome. And I'm writing my dissertation and finishing my doctorate. So I try to stay busy. I love cycling. I love skiing. Like Garrett said, I like working with people with physical and intellectual disabilities, either with Special Olympics or Vermont Adaptive, et cetera. So that's kind of my career path. Hopefully that helped answer your question without rambling too much.
That was perfect. Thank you very much. I appreciate it. Kind of going off of that, could you talk about some of your personal background, especially in some of your athletic achievements in sport? I know you were a college swimmer. Is that right?
Yep. So I was I participated in sports throughout my childhood, and then in high school I participated in three sports. I wound up swimming at the Division I level at Missouri State University, and so I swam in college all 4 years, and then after college I really missed the competitive side of sport. And I was a high school PE teacher, and I had a lot of time, and so I started training, and I really got into running. And I ran a little bit, I ran cross country and did some running in high school and some triathlon in high school, but I really got into running. And because of my ADHD, I got hooked on running really quickly. And so I did a marathon and I fell in love with it. It was so cool. It was such a great experience. And it was a big city marathon, the Chicago Marathon with 30,000 people. But I really liked it. And then I found as many marathons as I could afford to do. And I did one marathon every month for a year. And I got so OCD about doing marathons. And then I missed swimming. And so I started doing triathlon. So I went back to triathlon and I started participating and did an Ironman triathlon and realized that's a lot of fun. I miss doing the triathlons. So the Ironman triathlon is a 2.4 mile swim, 112-mile bike ride, followed by a 26-mile run. And I love the endurance side of sport. And all of a sudden, I found out that there's longer races than the Ironman. I found out there's a double Ironman. So I participated in that, which is a 4.8-mile swim, 224-mile bike ride, and a 52-mile run. And then I started doing ultra marathons and found out there's a 50-mile running race, and I did that. And then I found out there's a 100-mile running race. And it's really just a bunch of endurance weirdos. It's just this strange culture of long distance runners. And I got hooked on it. And I started doing 100-mile running races and longer. And did some triathlon, triple Ironman, which is a 7.2-mile swim, 336-mile bike ride, and a 78-mile run. And then my longest of all of them was called a quintuple Ironman. And this was after years and years of training, but I participated in a race. It was a 12-mile swim, 560-mile bike ride, and a 131-mile run. And yes, they do have weird events like that, but that was a 5-day race, and it took me a little over 4 days. So I really got into the mental side of sport, like how far can we actually push ourselves, which was fascinating to me because we explore all avenues. We send people to up in space and we go to the bottom of the ocean and we climb to the top of Everest. But human endurance, we haven't really, we're not done measuring that. And, people are riding their bikes across America and people are doing all these crazy events. But I wanted to see how far I could go and I found it. And now at 56 years old, I'm done. I still do things recreationally, but I don't participate in long distance running. I'll do a mountain bike race every once in a while. But I'm mainly into outdoor adventures, stuff that you like, Garrett. I just got back from a winter camping trip up in Katahdin. I was up there for a week. And, I look at adventures more than I look at competing in competitive events. I'm just getting older and, I feel like I have nothing to prove to myself anymore. And so I just like to ride my bike and ski and hike, etc.
Awesome. That was perfect. That's really awesome to hear that you were up in Katahdin. How was the weather?
It was great. We got lucky because they had a really, really cold spell. And when you're up there, it's winter camping. So you want it to be cold, obviously. I shouldn't let me say this. It's winter camping, but we also have a cabin that we use. But it's 18 miles to get in there. So we pull a polk sled and we bring all of our gear. It's awesome. It's just super cool event. And then we ski while we're there and we climb to the top of the mountain and we do a wide variety of things. So you want the good winter experience, but you also don't want, sub-zero where it's so dangerous that you're constantly troubleshooting the dangers versus, enjoying the winter outdoors. So yeah, we had great weather. We had a wonderful event. There were four of us who went and it was a good time.
Nice. Good to hear. Yeah, it's such a cool area. It's so remote up there. You really gotta hike in and take everything with you. It's not like the Adirondacks or Vermont.
Yeah. I've
Nice.
got to get you back to the Adirondacks, by the way. I have a really cool event every January. It's called the Great Range Traverse, which it's not my event. The Great Range Traverse is a 24-mile hike.
Mhm.
Mount Marcy being the tallest mountain in New York, and we do the whole traverse from point A to point B with 8 different mountains. But we do it as an organized event, and we get into small groups. Andy Vermillier, he's another professor at
Yeah.
Castleton. He joins us for that, and you'd probably know some of the people, but it's a very small group of people, and it's a really unique event because we utilize a lot of team building experiences, and everybody we go into small groups, and it's a lot of fun. We do it in the middle of January as well.
Nice. That sounds awesome. Sweet. So the next few questions are a little bit more for me personally. So I mean, we haven't talked in some time. I think the last time I saw you was Skyrun like 2 years ago when it was in Middlebury, the Snow Bowl there. But
Yeah,
so obviously I'm in grad school now,
yeah.
and my hopes is sort of similar to yours is to end up in higher education, hopefully teaching outdoor education this summer. I worked for Cortland State throughout pretty much the whole summer, teaching at their Racket Lake campus up in the Adirondacks. And similar to you, especially in my youth, I have a lot of like personal, mostly athletic exploits that I'd like to definitely accomplish and take the time to do while also balancing like the professional side. So I guess my question is how have you gone about balancing not only athletic exploits, your business, community engagement, teaching, but also you have a family as well. How do you go about balancing all those things as a leader in higher education?
Ooh, that's a good one. Well, the one huge plus to my job, and this was very strategic, I have a lot of time off. So when I was a high school teacher, one of my goals was to work with young people, to motivate young people, and to have some time off. I love having summers off, and I'm not ashamed to say that. I always worked in the summer. I was always hustling to try to compensate my income because you're never going to be rich being a teacher. And then as a college professor, I have a lot of time off. So having a lot of time off really helps with whether it's participating in endurance sports that I love, owning a small company and putting on endurance events. I like gardening. I volunteer with Killington Search and Rescue. I'm one of our team leaders. Um, so I'm able to find time to do things that I really enjoy. And I think that's super important. Obviously, when I was raising my girls are older now. I have a 23-year-old and a 26-year-old. So they're out of the house. They don't live with us. And my wife loves it when I'm gone. She says, "Why don't you go for a bike ride? Why don't you go ski? Why don't you go do this?" So I'm able to do the things that I really like. Um, and I think you'll find that niche as well. You're young, you're aggressive, you want to do all these cool things. So I would say just prioritize your education and then your work obligations, but also make sure you're doing the hobbies that you like and staying fit. It's so important that we're doing staying healthy and doing things. And you and I are lucky because we have things that we enjoy that keep us active, that keeps us outside, and it's much different than 25-year-old kids that are going out and partying and staying up till 3 in the morning, and then they're waking up the next day not doing anything. You're the opposite. You're getting up the next day at 6 a.m. and going out in the mountains. So I think it's just a healthy lifestyle, and but that carries on because now, I'm in my mid 50s, and I have a wilderness first responder, and we're working on all these really cool things, and we're doing land navigation, and we're training people for Killington Search and Rescue. So I can take some of my passions with outdoor recreation and outdoor leadership and bring them into real life application. This winter we were going on the backside of Killington, and most recently we found a 14-year-old skier at 8 o'clock at night. He got lost at noon. At noon, he went out of the resort and he called 911 at 4 o'clock as the sun was going down, and he was really cold and he was shivering and he was scared. So now my passion is being in the outdoors, but I can take some of these skills that I have that I enjoy and put them towards doing something, important for our community, and finding this young man from New Jersey who was lost in the woods. Um, just you find things that you really like, and I think you'll be able to do that as well.
Yeah, those are great points. I think what's so cool about especially adventure activities, but being active in general, is that it's so tangible to so many things. I talk to a lot of my students about it all the time, that like the grit, resiliency, the growth mindset, determination, even just being in good health, all that stuff translates to to school, to family life, to all that stuff. So as long as you're staying busy with that stuff, I think that mostly good can come from it for sure. Awesome.
I agree.
Cool. Last question that I have for you is for my class, what advice, or for me personally, whatever you'd like, what sort of advice would you give to someone looking to be in either higher education, recreation management, or maybe to start a business like you have yourself?
Oh, I love that. So, real quick, Garrett, what's the name? What's the course that you're in right now?
It's just a sports management course. It's an elective course. We don't have sports management as a major, at least not yet, but it's a lot of either people in my major that are in it as an elective or people that are in undergraduate or graduate business classes that are taking it that are just interested in sport.
Okay, awesome. So I would say a couple different things. So as far as starting a business, it's obviously not easy. For me, it's not my livelihood. If I was running this business and that was my livelihood, it would be a much different. We're not a nonprofit. It's an organization that gives back to the community, but I put on these events. But owning a business is obviously very time consuming. And for me, I do it more as a hobby because I like the endurance athletes and I like that type of person. But if you're really going into business, you're gonna have to be all in, 100% dedicated, especially if that's how you're going to raise your family and dictate your life and your principles. As far as getting into higher education and outdoor leadership, I would say outdoor leadership, follow your passions 100% because there's so many cool things out there. And you can also be super creative because you can take these leadership skills that you have and the outdoor education experiences that you have, and you can turn that into a business. I met this really cool guy. He's training us on Caltopo, which is an application for mountain travel. And he is a guide. He's a mountain guide, and he's a subcontractor for all these really cool and unique companies. And he's got the greatest gear in the world because it's all donated to him, and he has to test all this gear and do all these super things. He's created a niche, and he's got two kids at home and a wife and a family, and he's doing really cool things that he wants to do. And he's pursuing that. It's not easy, but I think if you're really passionate about something, you can find your niche. And then the third portion was you asked about getting into higher education. So I did not have a traditional path because I wanted to be a high school teacher and a high school coach. My mindset changed when I moved to Vermont, and I met some cool people who were into higher education, and I started working with college age kids. Um, so for me, I was able to put myself in a position where I could get hired at Vermont State University and make it kind of the second half of my career. The first half of my career, 15 years, was being a high school teacher. Now I'm in my 16th year. So for 31 years, I've been in education, high school, and now college. And so being in higher ed, I love it. And if I had to do it over, I probably would have gone that route earlier. So obviously, you have to start with a master's degree. And then, depending on what you're teaching, in many situations, you need to have your doctorate. But in my situation, I didn't. I was hired with, I had two master's degrees at the time, and I was hired with life experiences because I was in the teacher ed program. And now, by choice, I've decided to go back and get my doctorate, and I'm done with all my coursework and pass my exams. I just have to write the dissertation, which takes a long time because I like biking and hiking and skiing and stuff like that. But I would say pursue your passions and don't let anything get in the way. You just have to, like you said, you have to have grit and you have to have growth mindset and you have to be resilient. You have to set your goals high and, your values and your beliefs are correlate to each other. So if you set your goals high and you work hard, you can get there.
Awesome. Thank you so much. That was very well said. Well, I think that's a great way to end the podcast. But I want to, before I stop recording, thank you again, Andy, so much. Like I said at the beginning, you've been deeply inspiring to me, both as a person and as a professional. And it's been great talking to you. I hope my class enjoys this podcast.
All right. Thanks for having me, Garrett. And we'll catch up at some point. See you
Sounds
later.
good. See ya.